The Catholic Church, which has a history spanning almost 2,000 years, is considered one of the oldest institutions in the world. Within Catholic tradition, the Church views itself as a direct continuation of early Christianity, rather than a branch or an offshoot. However, some non-Catholic theologians and historians disagree with this claim. For the purposes of this discussion, we'll explore the origins of Catholicism as understood by its followers, starting with Jesus Christ, who is regarded as the foundation of their faith. Additionally, we will look at the beginnings of the Roman Catholic Church, which many other Christian sects see as the true start of Catholicism. In the Gospel of John, Jesus Christ is described as the eternal Son of God. This means that he possesses a divine nature, and his purpose is to guide and preserve the world. At the same time, Jesus also has a human nature. He was Jesus of Nazareth, a man who symbolized humanity's spiritual growth. These two aspects, divine and human, are unified in one person, creating a figure who represents the ideal of virtue and holiness. Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem, a small town in Judea, between the years 6 and 4 BCE, during the reign of Caesar Augustus, the first Roman emperor. Although there is little historical information about Jesus' childhood, some non-canonical texts, known as apocryphal Gospels, attempt to fill in these gaps. Around the age of 30, Jesus began his public mission. His baptism by John the Baptist marked the start of his role as the Messiah. However, his public ministry lasted only about 3 years, and yet those 3 years hold the most profound significance for Christianity, and eventually Catholicism. Jesus was raised as a Jew and deeply rooted in Jewish teachings. His message did not abandon Jewish beliefs, but expanded on them, providing new interpretations and meanings. He chose 12 apostles, all of whom were Jewish, and he also selected 70 or 72, according to some sources, Gentile disciples. Gentiles were people who did not follow the Jewish faith. His followers were mainly ordinary people, fishermen, laborers, and others from humble backgrounds. Jesus did not seek out scholars or influential leaders. Instead, he focused on teaching those considered outcasts or sinners, such as thieves and betrayers. His teachings often revolved around love, forgiveness, and humility. Traveling through Palestine and areas around the Sea of Galilee, Jesus taught with an authority that won him the love and trust of the common people. Despite having no formal training, his teachings left a lasting impact. The climax of Jesus' mission occurred when he entered Jerusalem. By this time, he was seen as both a political and religious threat, especially by the Romans. Much of what we know about Jesus' life comes from the Gospels written by Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. These accounts were not meant to be strictly biographical or historically precise, but were written to highlight Jesus' divine nature and persuade readers of his significance. The Gospels were written decades after Jesus' death, with estimates ranging from 40 to 70 years later. Their authors did not claim to have first-hand knowledge of his life, but relied on the collective memories of early Christian communities. This shared memory became the foundation for what would later become the Catholic Church. The Christian faith began with the event of Jesus' resurrection. Before this, Jesus was viewed as the Messiah within Judaism, not as the founder of a new religion. Early Christianity was essentially a sect of Judaism. Its followers believed that Jesus' resurrection brought new understanding and meaning to their faith. However, it is important to note that during this period, Christianity was not a separate religion, but rather a new interpretation within Judaism. The apostles' mission was not to create a new faith, but to share a new perspective within the existing one. The apostles and early Christians continued to follow Jewish laws and worship at the temple. However, not all Jewish leaders accepted the idea that Jesus was the promised Messiah, leading to conflicts. The spread of Christianity was not immediate. It happened gradually. Initially, it reached Jewish communities around the Mediterranean. As tensions and persecutions in Jerusalem increased, the apostles began spreading their message to other regions. One significant milestone was the arrival of Christianity in Antioch, an ancient Greek city located in what is now Turkey. Antioch became a key center for the spread of the faith, especially as Gentiles, non-Jews, began to convert. This marked a major shift, as Christianity started to expand beyond Jewish communities. Among the apostles, Paul played a pivotal role in spreading Christianity. Paul, originally named Saul, authored many letters that are now part of the New Testament. These letters, known as the Pauline epistles, helped shape early Christian theology. Some of these writings were likely penned by Paul's students in his name, but at least 7 are widely accepted as his authentic work. Paul worked to make Christianity appealing to non-Jews by removing many Jewish-specific practices. He believed that faith in Jesus alone was sufficient for salvation, which resonated with Gentile audiences. In approximately 50 CE, the Council of Jerusalem was convened to address the growing number of Gentile converts. Peter, one of Jesus' closest apostles, argued that salvation was available to both Jews and Gentiles through Jesus' grace. Peter's prominence in the early Christian community is significant. He is regarded as the first leader of the church. In Catholic tradition, the Pope is considered the spiritual successor to Peter. The Council's decision to exempt Gentile converts from certain Jewish laws helped Christianity grow beyond its Jewish roots. However, this shift also led to tensions and disagreements within the early community. Paul's missionary efforts eventually brought him to Rome, where he faced opposition from both Jewish and Roman authorities. Seen as a threat to Roman religious and social norms, Paul was arrested and ultimately executed by beheading. Despite his death, Christianity continued to grow. By the end of the 1st century, it had become a well-established faith. While the exact origins of the Catholic Church remain a topic of debate, Catholics traditionally believe that their church was founded on Pentecost, 50 days after Jesus' crucifixion. Initially called the Way, the term Catholic began to emerge in the early 2nd century, with one of the first references appearing in a letter by St. Ignatius in 108 CE. Some historians argue that the Catholic Church, as we know it today, did not take shape until the reign of Emperor Constantine in the 4th century. This perspective suggests that there is no direct, unbroken lineage from the apostles to the modern papacy. Instead, they point to Constantine's influence in organizing the church and integrating it with the Roman state. Constantine's conversion to Christianity and his policies significantly shaped the development of the church. In 313 CE, the Edict of Milan granted religious tolerance to Christians, allowing them to practice their faith openly and reclaim property. Over time, Constantine began to favor Christianity over pagan religions, incorporating Christian symbols and restricting pagan practices. Constantine's efforts to unify the church and state culminated in the First Council of Nicaea in 325 CE. This council, attended by bishops from across the empire, addressed key theological disputes and sought to establish unity within the church. While Constantine's motives were partly political, his actions helped solidify Christianity's role within the Roman Empire. The question of when Catholicism truly began depends on one's perspective. Some trace its origins to the apostles and early church fathers, emphasizing the spiritual and doctrinal continuity from Jesus Christ. Others view the 4th century as the critical period when Catholicism became institutionally distinct, shaped by Constantine's reforms and the Church's integration into Roman society. Regardless of differing views, Catholics believe their church was founded by Jesus Christ himself. They see their faith as rooted in ancient traditions and guided by the teachings of the early church. The Catholic Church's emphasis on preserving doctrines, dogmas, and traditions reflects its commitment to maintaining the purity of the faith as understood by its leaders. While some argue that Catholicism emerged as a distinct branch between the 1st and 4th centuries, others maintain that its origins are directly tied to Jesus and his apostles. The debate continues to this day, illustrating the complexity of the Church's history and its significance in the broader context of Christianity. To learn more about the history of Catholicism, consider exploring resources such as Catholic History, a captivating guide to the history of the Catholic Church. This book delves into the teachings of Jesus, the Roman Empire, the Middle Ages, and more,